Welcome to the Ruffles ad break. This is the first of the Ruffles Roughcasts. I'm Tim McInnes, Managing Director. In this podcast, we dig into how the creatives we work with get the most out of every brief to deliver the best for you. At Ruffles, we're all about the people, and when we're working with best in breed, it's easy to get great results. We also reckon that when the majority of our effective brain time is spent at work, you might as well enjoy the ride. Joining us this episode is our very own Bianca Chinaglia, account and social lead, trusted advisor and bringer of joy. In this episode, we talk about the benefit of managing an idea from the early stages to measuring results, negotiating channels to market, and the risk of staying where you are. But less from me and more from B. Ruffles ad break. So good.
Ruffles ad break.
This is a little bit of an unusual one for me because I've mostly been talking to people from outside of the Ruffles core crew.
Yeah.
So I feel like I know a bunch of stuff about you, and I know quite a few of the answers, but I'm sure there's a lot that I don't know. Yeah, that's right. There is, I'm sure, deep, dark secrets.
Yeah.
But I am interested in going through this process and talking to you a little bit because you have not had the most linear journey.
No.
That's one thing I've noticed with a lot of these podcasts.
Yeah.
There's no one, or maybe one or two, but there have been very few people who have started in one thing and ended up in a very straight trajectory to get to where they are in the other, whatever. So what about you? What's your story? I mean, did you even in what year did you start working with us? I mean, was that
2019? 19, yeah.
So even in that time, you've shifted and moved a lot with what you've been doing and stuff like that. So what are you? Was it that you had to be involved in the creative sector and what do we even call this? The creative industry? What was your thing?
We're artists, aren't we?
Man, are we magicians?
I thought,
magicians sometimes.
Yeah. I don't know, Tim. I think there has always been the creative side in me has always been very present in one way or another. And then, so, even from making, films with my sister when we were kids to, I used to make videos on, like little stories on PowerPoint.
Yeah,
and just like really bad ones. Some that I'm not proud of, but
it's in the doing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's in the doing. That's the fun. And then I think, that's what led me to go and study film and then actually start working in film. And then actually working in some pretty big stuff that I was like, oh, that's cool that I'm actually working for this distributor or company or whatever.
Because you've done some big stuff. You were working with HBO.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at.
No.
You were. I say this all the time. I apologize, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You used to work with the lead actor who played Pablo Escobar in the Netflix series.
Wagner Moura.
Yeah. Narcos. That was
Yeah.
So you worked with him for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, a few months actually in that project.
Well, I said 5 or 6 years. I thought that sounded more impressive.
Let's go with that.
I was trying to give that to you, but thanks for the correction.
But and that was fun too. But then I also think I kind of started going, but then I get no life. It's all work. Yeah. And it's very insane and
long
very
hours,
draining.
Right?
Long hours and not the best structure. Let's say, and there was no promise of it getting better, at least where I was working, because I was already working for the big people. So, so then that's when I decided to come here. And
how long were you in the film industry in Brazil for?
About 7 years.
About 7 years. Okay. Okay.
And then, decided I needed a break, decided to come here. and then found you guys through my friend who had worked here previously.
Carolina.
Yeah, Kimi. And and then I think the whole process has just been figuring out a lot of stuff, because even when I was working in film, I tried to go, I felt like the creative side was very present, but then I did apply for jobs at like Samsung, because I wanted something that was more like, I think I was missing the structure. That I feel like I'm very half creative, half structure. And I feel like the film part of my career was very much the creative side and not much the structured. I needed some.
Well, you didn't know in 3 weeks' time if you were going to go on to the next job, or if it was
the day before, you didn't know what was going to happen the next day. You had a plan.
Yeah.
But if it rained, it changed it, or And then I feel like here I can really balance those two. I get a little bit of the creative, a little bit of the structure, and that's kind of the sweet spot for me. That has been the sweet spot for me. So it's been really good.
But you love a spreadsheet.
I love a spreadsheet.
You love a program. You love a piece of software that's intuitive and yet that you can tweak.
But that looks great, and it's very,
aesthetically pleasing.
Aesthetic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So as long as the output, as long as anything that goes to a client, or even the internal stuff that gets produced, it always looks good.
Yeah.
But the structure. So that's interesting, because I think there are a lot of people who think that what we do in the creative world is without structure, or is, oftentimes we get called the colouring in department. I don't disagree with that. There's colouring in that goes on.
But you need to have a structure to get there.
You need to know, am I using watercolour pencils? Am I using paintbrush?
You don't just get to the blank wall and decide there and then what you're going to do.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Although some people do work like that, and maybe it works for them. But I think for us, it really benefits us, and me in particular, when, there is some planning around it and some structure. And when we get that support from our clients too, like what they want to achieve, so that we can plan for it and then actually get them what they're looking for. If there's too much guessing,
can cause
we
problems.
can do, but it can cause problems. Yeah, for sure.
Did you have a moment? Did you have a moment, or somebody was saying that it's more like a festoon lamp. It's like a series of light bulb moments along the way. Have you had one of those, or any of those moments where you kind of thought, I'm doing the right thing, or did you have to be in this kind of world, or was there another option? Were you going to be a dentist? I don't know.
Yeah. I feel that more now, I think. I think I was, it was always those two sides of me kind of fighting or trying to find that balance, the creative and the structure side of things. And like I said, I think I just kind of went with what felt good, felt like the right thing to do, which was film at the time. But then I was lacking too much of the structure side. And then that's when I started going to more, traditional corporate jobs and stuff. But then that was too much for me of the other thing, maybe. Yeah. I felt, I lacked the freedom and I don't know. Yeah. I can't really see myself fitting in like too much into this like square thing. I don't know. It's
I know. Yeah. I get it.
So it's kind of, finding that balance. And then I think here is now, when I'm finally going, oh, okay, this is, I get a little bit of both. So maybe no light bulb moment in that traditional way of like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but what I'm doing right now feels very right. And
well, that's good.
I guess I would call that a light bulb moment in that sense. Yeah.
Just that moment of realization that maybe it doesn't have to be perfect always, but pretty good is okay. I think there are a lot of people who would like to get to pretty good. So we're pretty lucky in that regard.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
So what about, do you have anything in particular? And let's just if there was something from when you were in Brazil, that's fine. But I was thinking maybe in the last few years, it's been a weird few years. We've had pandemics and we've had, inflation and
crazy.
It's been pretty weird.
Yeah.
And I mean, you have been home. Managed to get home to Brazil for a couple of months. That was great.
Yeah, it was great.
But is there anything in particular that you have kind of been able to sink your teeth into and feel the reward of that? What is it?
Yeah.
And what did you add to that?
Yeah. I think the first thing that comes to mind is the LTO launch we did with Angel Bay and Jax Hamilton.
Yep.
It was just really cool to be in that process from very early stages until, measuring the results and, even like finding who that celebrity chef was going to be.
Yep.
Then actually meeting with Jax, who was amazing. Then actually, going down to Dunedin and seeing how everything's done. And I think that just really helped us understand what it is that we were looking for, like to achieve. And therefore we got to do our work better, because we knew everything. We were part of it.
We had more responsibility. It wasn't just producing an asset to promote something.
Exactly.
It was being part of the development.
Yeah. And I think we already care. Like we're a team that usually cares a lot about the work that we're doing here. But when you're that involved, then you care even more. You just, it just becomes almost emotional, less, less of a job and more of a something that you just want to see going really well.
Yeah.
And it just made it from like the social media aspect, considering that I manage their social media accounts. It was just really easy for me to tie in everything that was happening into our social calendar and make sure that everything was making sense across all the marketing channels that we were using.
Yep.
So that was really good. And I think it made it very, how do you say that?
Comprehensive?
No. Very, what's the word?
What is it in Portuguese?
Like,
I'll pull some faces while you think of the...
Yeah. Like, not gratitude. Just, when you feel good, when you finish, like you feel proud of yourself. And it made me feel very satisfied. Yeah. With the work that we had done and the work that, Angel Bay was doing, Jackson, everyone, it just felt really good.
And it was pretty cool, wasn't it? That for that Angel Bay were brave to go and make a jerk patty. Something with some chili in it, which is big flavors, but also something with chili because it's so far outside the standard product range that to have the courage to go and do that, I think was pretty
cool.
Awesome.
So cool. And it gives people something to talk about, whether they liked it or not, It's something that everyone had an opinion on, and they were coming to us and sharing it on social a lot. So we got a lot of engagement, and a lot of people loved it. Even recently, I replied to one comment there that said, please don't, take them out. I miss them. And, it hasn't even been a year.
Yeah.
And so you can still get them if you're lucky. But it's just make it exciting.
Yeah. And I guess that's the thing, right? So being that deeply involved in it means that whichever way the wind swings, or if the media mix is favoring radio or favoring bus backs or favoring whatever, there's always something to talk about. And because that journey and have been part of, creating that story, that where all the channels to market are, how to navigate certain aspects, and if something changes, whether that's public opinion or something politically or whatever it is,
which happened, by the way,
didn't it just?
Yeah.
Then you can change and I hate the word pivot, but you can do that stuff. So that's how we kind of add value, right, in that situation.
Yeah, and I think that's what we were talking about the other day about managed risk. You know, you can take risks, but you know, in a way that is safe enough for you. You know, risk doesn't have to be jumping from a bridge, you know, because that's just stupid. But it can be bungee jumping.
Surrounded by professionals who have measured your weight and put, you know. Yeah, that's right. So do you have any moments where you kind of realized or notice the influence of advertising or marketing on you, whether that's in an advertisement or whether that was like, oh, wow, I want to be involved in that. Or, I mean, I had a few, you know, which is, you know, I either excited me or, you know, kind of made me have a moment where I sort of felt that was a really dreamy thing, and imagine if you could actually make a living, you know, being involved in that world. You know, I had those moments. Did you have any of those moments?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
what were they?
It's interesting because if I think about all the people you've talked to in the podcast so far, most people tend to go back to childhood.
Yeah.
So that's how much of an impact those ads or TV shows or whatever they are have on us, because we can remember them like 30 years later. We still remember them as if, you know. And I think obviously most of the ones that I've seen are in Brazil, because that's where I was. But there was one which I really appreciate up until now, and it's really simple, really silly almost, and not particularly for the most exciting brand. So there's a Brazilian brand called Bombril, and they do cleaning products. And like their main product is, I think it's called steel wool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So very boring.
But I would argue in every household.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But very boring product. And the way they managed to make it interesting is they had the same commercial or the same type of commercial on for over 20 years or so. And it was very simple. It was the same actor. It was something like this. So just a black wall and their logo, the cleaning products in the front, and the actor guy just explaining what it is that they do. But he was always a different character. So he was either like a stay-at-home mom, or he was a punk rock band singer, or he was a pilot of a plane. You know, there was always something, and he really incorporated that character and talked about the products.
So he was dressed in that way? He embodied the character of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Took on some of the cliches. And
very simple, very easy to make. But because it was on for so long and people were actually excited to see what the next character was going to be, they managed to make something very boring and simple into something very exciting and fun. And I feel like it actually, you know, it made people look forward to it. That's the thing that I think is like, wow. And they're still, you know, one of the most iconic, trusted brands in Brazil.
And then people comment on it. Yeah. And because they comment on it, it creates...
did you see the last one that they did? Or did you see...
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Why didn't they stick with that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We had a series here, a guy called Goldstein. I think it was ASB Bank. And, you know, I mean, it's banking, but they took this guy who was an American guy from New York, out of New York into New Zealand. The one that I remember particularly was they put him on a farm.
Yeah.
And I think it was him and a farmer, and he was a duck out of water. Yeah. You know, he was like totally out of
So American.
Place. So American, in a suit next to old mate in a swan dry.
Yeah.
And he said, nice flock of cows. And then the farmer says, herd of cows. And he says, yes, I have heard of cows. You know, ridiculous. Yeah. Simple, right? It was just one frame. Yeah. And it just showed, it completely showed off the juxtaposition between these two. It called attention to it. And I was like, I don't know, we might not know if, you know, not that we don't know farming. We might not be the same as you, but we know money. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And just, really effective. And I think that lasted 7
And what
years.
was it? Yeah, was it a series as well?
And so every year he did something else. And, some of them were good and some of them weren't. But
a little joke.
But that was the joke, right?
Yeah.
That was
That's cool.
prior
That's
to
cool.
social media working as it does today.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. So it's interesting how that nostalgic approach to advertising, how when we feel something, there's a certain safety and almost a credibility that happens because of those nostalgic emotions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that's pretty interesting, and I think there's a lot of research around characters, and recently there was one. I mean, just came out. Where are we? We're in November 2022.
Yeah, crazy.
And it just came out for Australian tourism, and it has a soft toy, an animated, kangaroo, and it goes around this place. Now, a lot of people are saying it's terrible. I mean, it doesn't talk to me personally, but I'm not going there for those things. And I think the thing that I thought was really interesting about it was it doesn't have to talk to you if you're not the target demographic.
Exactly. Yeah.
But in the world of social media, people are still going to talk about it.
Yeah.
They're still going to trash it.
Everyone has an opinion.
Everyone has an opinion.
Yeah. But that's too what I've realized in the past few years is people are going to have an opinion regardless.
Yeah.
So why not, let them have an opinion on something that at least you were enjoying doing, or that's, giving you something that's good, because even if you do nothing and just stay in the safe zone, people are going to have an opinion of you.
But then
the opinion's going to be, oh, he doesn't do anything, or that brand doesn't do anything, it's boring, or it's...
But why not take a position?
Yeah.
Take a solid, and then let there's this amazing cartoon.
Yeah.
I might have even said this on the podcast somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
I forget. And there's a king and an advisor or whatever in a castle tower. Mm-hmm. You see the thing? Mm-hmm. And down there they've got just hundreds or thousands of people with pitchforks and flaming torches.
Yeah.
And the king says, oh, I guess this is the end. And the advisor says, no, all we have to do is convince the pitchfork people that the torch people are trying to steal their pitchforks.
Got it. That's,
There's always somewhere else to go.
Yeah. It's kind of what's happening in Brazil at the moment, I think. Yeah.
Division. But take your position so that people can comment.
Yeah. And I think going back to the edge and nostalgia and everything, I think the guy who created, I'm pretty sure he's the guy who created those ads I was talking about. I was watching an interview with him the other day.
Do you mean the actor or the...
No, the advertiser.
Yeah.
His name is Washington Oliveto. He's very world famous ad man.
Sure.
Yeah. And he, I was watching an interview with him, and he talks about how it's very important that when we're doing something to, persuade an audience to do something, that we give them something in return. Mm-hmm. So it's not only because it's easier for you to convince them to do what you want them to do if you're giving them something,
purchase your product,
but because it's it's almost out of respect. It's like, well, you're asking for their time, you're asking for them to buy something from you. The least you can do is be respectful and give them something in return. So whether that's making them laugh, feel something, or whatever it is. And I thought that was really clever.
Information or entertainment.
Yeah.
Give them something.
Yeah, right? Give them something. Yeah. Don't just do something that is just going to take people's times and, not give them anything valuable in return,
Excellent. Yeah. So do you think the steel pad, the steel wool ad...
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But to me, that sounds like something that could be replicated very simply anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah.
And it's just making the device simple and knowing your product and knowing the problem that it solves, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was going to say the question was, do you think it would still work as effectively now? I think the only thing probably that's changed is the media mix, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Is that it?
And yeah, I think so. And I think, well, maybe, again, what's the audience you're trying to talk to? And then where is that going? And then how do you talk to those people? So a joke that is funny to a 50-year-old probably isn't going to be funny to a 20-year-old. But I think, it's really easy to replicate. And it makes me think of what you were saying with Harley as well on the other podcast about how it's not always about how much you have to spend. You know, it's not always about budget. You can have a really, like if you're willing to take the risk and let us come up with something that's actually creative for you, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You know, that edge probably cost them nothing to make. The talent fees were probably the most expensive thing, especially after the guy started getting, recognized for that work.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can have some pretty clever ideas with no budget. You just gotta, trust your team and let them do it. Yeah.
How important do you think that is? You know, I mean, I've got a couple of people who are friends.
Yeah.
But who are also talent for, major brands. And I mean, I see the value, definitely a value in creating characters who span time and who can help bring the brand story to the front and, start telling a narrative and engaging audiences in that way. How important do you think that is? I mean, I'm not even talking about getting you want to try and get them as right as possible, but how important is that, do you think? Do you think that is something that when you think about advertising or you think about, and it could be anything, it could be in a magazine, could be whatever it is, how important is it getting that brand story before you connect with it? Or is it just selling a product? Does it matter?
How do you mean, Tim?
I don't really know. I'm kind of going off on I was just...
This is every day here, Ruffles, guys.
Well, it is though. No, yeah. Right? Yeah, it is. No,
but it's great.
It is.
Yeah,
like, you have to have a curious mind and you have to sort of investigate if you're recommending to somebody, hey, well, we should put a character in this.
Yeah.
And sometimes that character then becomes bigger than the product. But I mean,
I know what you say.
Where is the risk to the client and where is the benefit? And I
think the risk is staying where you are.
Yeah.
Really, I think if it's never just about the product, I think more than ever now people are looking for connection. And I think there's a reason why social media is so popular. No one goes to social media to buy stuff. They go there to find connection, to see what other people are doing, and then they happen to see a product that would be perfect for them and then they purchase it. But I think making it about relationships and, like we always say, bring the social back to social media, making sure that you're not just hard selling your product all the time and you're actually telling people about your brand and why is it cool, why people should buy from you and not from your competitor, and things like that really makes it, what it should be and what makes people go and buy it. Because I think,
I think this is, we posted something recently saying that these individual activations don't work in isolation, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be part of a wraparound.
Yeah.
So
and we see that so often here. And we always try and advise clients on the best way that they can get the most out of their products, but their assets that they're paying us to make for them. But so often they're so focused on just getting that one asset, and they think that one asset is gonna change the brand forever. And of course it helps, it's at least exciting. but it's got to be done in conjunction with your branding, your messaging, your brand story, narrative. Everything has to be in there.
Make sure you're talking to the targeted demographic.
Exactly. And so that they look at it and they go, oh, what an awesome brand.
Yeah, that's me. I'll have a bit of that.
Yeah, exactly.
There was this one story. Can I bore you with a story?
Yeah.
Okay, so
always.
There's this one. I always bore you with stories. Thanks. Yeah. So there was this. So much truth in it. There was this one client that we did some work for a number of years ago, over a decade ago, and what they did was, they had been doing these kind of infomercial things on the local access. There's a TV station, CTV, Canterbury TV, and they do a very kind of functional, a little bit like you're saying with the steel wool. There's a table, there's a person, they're talking. It's like have a cup of coffee. Oh, so tell us about the benefit of the thing. Well, thanks for asking. Da 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 da.
Yeah.
They work. There's a reason for those things to exist, and they used to have 3 or 4 inquiries every single time they were on one of those shows. So consequently, they were on every week. They paid for their spot, and then they were growing their inquiries. And that's great because it converted directly, so they could see ROI immediately. It was an easy sell.
Yep.
What they thought, if they get to TVNZ, which at the time was, the big dog, that was if you got to TVNZ, you were doing great. And they put, I don't know, $20,000 towards producing a single TVC asset, 30-second asset, and we put some talent in there. And this is a long time ago.
All in. Yeah.
And with animation, and it was inside a heat pump unit, and we put these, nasty germs inside there and stuff. And this guy came along, was like a superhero, right? It was a hero's journey. Now, that's cool, and the ad was cool.
Yeah.
It was good fun. And it was like, this is a really great time. They ran it for 2 weeks, and I think because of the rate card on that TV commercial, I think they had, I want to say 6 spots. Something like that, because TV, especially primetime TV, was and still can be very expensive.
Quite expensive, yeah.
And didn't work.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have, there was no on demand, there was no, whatever. So if people didn't see those, weren't watching during those 6 spots, they didn't see it.
And that's the thing again. You gotta know who you're trying to talk to in order to find out where they are. Don't try and talk to everyone, because
that's right.
That's not going to happen. And it's not, I'm sure you know this, but it's not to say that TV doesn't work anymore. It's just, it might not be where your audience is, or the audience that you want, or,
I mean, it absolutely works as part of the media
exactly.
mix. Absolutely, it
exactly.
does. Yeah.
But if that's all you're betting on, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I love me some good investment advice.
Yeah. Yeah, and anecdotes. Are you just collecting them? It's like, too many cooks spoil the soup.
Yeah. I've been learning a lot of sayings, and I like them. So I write them down, and I use them whenever I find an opportunity to.
You practice at work.
Yeah.
And you're proud of yourself, and we're proud of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
You do a very, very good job in a second language. I know how hard that is.
I love that. I say it first, and then I kind of look at you, Harley or Grace, kind of like, did I use that right?
Did it work?
Did it work? Yeah, was that the right time? Yeah. And you guys are like, yeah. Yeah, so thanks for that.
Okay, so what's been the biggest thing or the best thing in the last wee while? What have you learned? What has been the thing that you can see yourself bringing the most value in the last wee while? What do you think? Because I know from the way that you work is really complementary to the way that we work.
Yeah.
So you totally support my efforts because you love a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And so I do them because I have to, not because
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
So that's great because I
Yeah.
can say, oh, by the way, this thing.
And I actually love doing it.
And you
Like
love
Tim
it.
was away. Can I just say, Tim was away for like 3 days. And when he came back, there was actually like our whiteboard was structured into like our jobs, what was happening to each one of them. And it's like, Tim got here on Monday and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I just had, and he was like, yeah, I know. You just had to. You could, yeah.
And it
But
works.
Yeah, it worked. For me,
it
works.
I don't want
love
to do it,
Yeah.
but it works.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, I love it. I think
But you have a lot of that stuff. But
Yeah.
you also, I think you have a lot of that. I don't want to stereotype,
Yeah.
but this kind of South American vibe about you, which is kind of like it's full noise and a little bit spicy. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
So you bring a lot of that as
Yeah.
well. And also in the last few, you've grown massively as a person. You've got a huge skill set and you've got a lot more confidence in
Grown a
yourself.
lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have
past few
anything
years,
that
yeah.
you think? Because I think that the thing which amazes me is that the way that you listen and read a situation, even though it's not your native language, is phenomenal. And I think it's
thanks, Tim.
because you're translating the whole time, not just the language, but you're translating the need
Yeah.
of the client. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. One thing that just crossed my mind now, so I might be wrong. You might disagree.
I disagree.
I think there's maybe a South American thing, which is to be very empathetic. So we're very emotional in a lot of ways. And I think that makes us very empathetic in a lot of ways. So you've seen it even when I don't want to put something in the wrong bin because that won't be recycled, or, like something that's very like, I don't know, almost detrimental to me. But, it makes me, I think, very empathetic. And I think when you are able to put yourself not only in the client's position, but in the audience's position, it makes you, I don't know, I think I often bring that audience perspective quite a lot. I go, okay, Tim, but what is the question that they'll be asking? Or, I love the idea, but will they understand it? Or is it, I'm always trying to bring that other, and then we often have long discussions about whether it's
Why
the right
this
thing.
or why
Yeah,
that?
yeah. But yeah, I feel like I just thought about this now. I'm often going to the okay, but how will they see this? How will they interpret it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's good.
You're invested.
I think that's a good skill to have.
Yeah, it is.
I like to think.
It is.
Okay.
Well, we're very glad to have you with us. And like
Thank
I
you,
said, this
Tim.
is a weird one because I feel like there's a bunch
Yeah.
of
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's weird, isn't it? The whole, isn't it even having a podcast a strange thing?
Yes.
Like,
being in front of a camera when we're used to being behind the camera.
My mother says that I have a face for radio.
Yeah, she's right. Sorry.
And
no.
now we have like cameras as well. So
Yeah.
So Bianca, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
My phone number is 027.
It's not.
It's not.
It's really not.
It's really
no,
not.
that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And if there is anything that anyone can take from this,
Yeah.
I hope they do.
Jesus. Thanks, Tim. Glad I could help.